Okay, so our next award presentation is for the AC Redfield Lifetime Achievement Award. This award recognizes and honors major long-term achievements in the fields of limnology and oceanography, including research, education, and service to the community and to society. Today we honor Fred Grassle. The citation reads, presented in 2011 to Dr. J. Frederick Fred Grassle in recognition of his fundamental discoveries in deep-sea ecology, visionary leadership of marine sciences, selfless community service, and groundbreaking technical innovations that will shape oceanography for decades to come. Unfortunately, Fred's doctor, he says he's fine, but his doctor said he should not travel on a plane at this time. And so we have Cindy Lee Van Dover, who will be accepting the award on his behalf.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here to accept this award for Fred. He is very sorry he couldn't join us all here for this meeting, and I'm sure he's very proud to receive this award. I was asking who the nominators were, and I believe it's the crowd at Rutgers, Oscar Schofield, and many others, and so I would really grateful for their nomination. It's a very sensible one and well-deserved one. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Fred's career, and I understand it started in the early 1960s when he received an NSF Undergraduate Research Award, all of $600, to go do work in the Arctic at Ice Station Alert, which is not what this picture is, but it looks cold and gives you a sense of the Arctic. But there was no room at the inn, basically. There wasn't room for him at this ice station. And so instead, his advisors at Yale, he was an undergraduate at Yale University, sent him off to Cape Cod, to Woods Hole, to the Oceanographic Institution. And there he studied processes controlling the sand-mud transition of the outer part of Cape Cod. So he started to develop his connections to Cape Cod here. And it happens that he worked next to Dr. Redfield in the Woods Hole, in his Woods Hole office. So he feels some connection to this award, which is kind of nice. From there, he went to the Duke University Marine Laboratory, which is where I am currently a director. And he did his PhD research on the influence of environmental variation on species diversity in benthic communities of the continental shelf and slope. So he was moving into the deep sea and becoming an expert in species diversity, which has consumed his career his scientific career for his lifetime. And you'll hear his major contributions in this field. From Duke University, he went and did a Fulbright in Australia and then found his way to Woods Hole Oceanographic as a research scientist. And one of his first contributions was thinking about the diversity in the deep sea and understanding why diversity was so high. And this is in the soft sediments of the deep sea. And he developed a theoretical basis for deep sea biodiversity, in particular the patch mosaic model that speaks to the heterogeneity of the seabed environment of the sediments at microscales, on centimeter scales, and that can contribute to the diversity that we find there. So that was in 1973 when he published on that. He also became one of the first biological users of submersibles, human-occupied vehicles, we call them now, rather than manned submersibles. And he published in Science about the power that these vehicles can give to biologists. And he was also really important to the deep sea community in that he demanded rigor in his experiments and replication. And in the deep sea, that's especially in the early days, was difficult to achieve. But he set the standard for us all. And so that's one of his great legacies to us. He also worked with his wife, Judy, who's a scientist, and did some Alazine work kind of anticipating the barcoding that we do now, looking at sibling species and recognizing that two very essentially identical morphological species could be distinguished using genetic tools or at that time Allozyme tools. He was one of the first biologists. He was the chief scientist on the first biological cruise to hydrothermal vents. And so he was very early on involved in understanding how the hydrothermal vents could support very large biomass of very strange animals. And I have, through my career in studying hydrothermal vents, I've used his words. He just describes them as strange. And that's the best description for the vent animals that there can be. So he really helped lead this field of research and exploration for many years. One of his most cited papers is one with Nancy Masciola, published in 1992 in American Naturalist, in which he looked at the diversity in box cores taken off the coast of New Jersey and the Mid-Atlantic Bight, and extrapolated from the diversity in those box cores, just meters squared of mud, or meter cubed of mud, and extrapolate to the diversity in the entire ocean in the deep sea, and remarkably suggested that through that extrapolation that there might be as many as 10 million species in the deep sea. Whether it's 10 million, 5 million, it's a lot. So the numbers, we're not all agreed on the number, but there's a lot of species out there that haven't been described, and it's Fred who really brought that so dramatically to our attention. And it's through this American Naturalist paper. So again, another legacy in thinking about what the deep sea is like. He's also had a tremendous career in academic leadership. He moved to Rutgers in 1989 and was the director there at the Institute of Marine and Coastal Sciences, and really brought Rutgers forward into the oceanographic community in a superbly big way. So they are one of the leaders now in oceanographic research, and that's in large part due to Fred's ability to find the right people. He understands what good science is and just brings those people to work with him. So he's got a real talent for that kind of academic leadership. He's also was one of the first people to establish offshore observatories. So Leo 15 was used for some observatory-style data collection, and it used multiple instruments, taking measurements over time, small spatial scales, high-frequency, high-resolution data. And it's kind of the ancestor to the modern day ocean observatories that we are developing in the deep ocean. So he deserves a lot of credit for thinking out of the box. It's what Fred does so well. Another example of his thinking out of the box is he really wanted a database system online. He was right there as soon as we could get online. He was ready to go and thinking about how we collect all this information about distributions of organisms and share it with everyone across the world. And that led to the Oceanographic Biological Information System, or OBIS, that has achieved a great deal of success in these years, and it's used by all of us who work in biological oceanography. And then in the past decade, he was the founder of the Census of Marine Life, so the key organizer, and he followed the Census of Marine Life all the way through to its successful conclusion just this past November, the big celebration in London. And then there's also the ongoing projects that have evolved out of the Census of Marine Life. So in terms of service and vision, Fred is just extraordinary, and it's very appropriate for him to receive this award. The legacies he's left behind for us are immense. And then he's been a mentor and friend to many, many young scientists and to all his colleagues, and on an international basis. Protect your PC now. Okay, close it. Okay, protected. And so I just have just a few of his graduate students, just to remind you of who some of them are. Paul Snellgrove, who's at Memorial University, is on the left there. At the top is Karen Stocks. Below her is Sherilyn Zimmer. And on the right, let's see, Karen is at UCSD, Sherilyn's at UCLA, Jeremy Colley is at Rhode Island, and there are many other graduate students and postdocs that I didn't include in here. But those of us who were his student, and I was one, know him to be incredibly generous with ideas, with resources, and just a fabulous, fabulous mentor and friend. And so that's all. That's what I wanted to say. He's just a brilliant man, wonderful person. I appreciate you joining us to celebrate his career. I really wish he was here, and I hope in absentia, in his absence, you'll give him a standing ovation.